What is social convention? Social convention is defined as any of various established rules, methods, procedures, and practices that have been accepted as guides for social conduct over a relatively long period. Often unwritten, arbitrary, and self-perpetuating, social conventions usually pertain to relatively mundane aspects of society, such as etiquette, social ceremonies, and decorum. You may ask yourself, why are we talking about this? Well, in short, it's because yesterday was my birthday. And you may ask yourself what that has to do with social convention. I'll explain, at least from my perspective. I had actually never heard of the term social convention until I was watching an episode of The Big Bang Theory one evening. If you're familiar with the show, you understand that Sheldon makes reference to this term quite regularly and for various reasons in various contexts. As anyone that watches the show knows, Sheldon is absolutely terrible at understanding social cues. The way that everybody gets him to remember most of them is by telling him that it's common social convention. The reason it's on my mind in reference to my birthday is purely because of the world that we live in today, dominated by technology and social media, essentially making it obsolete for us to have to actively remember anything on our own anymore. We've essentially become the robots that we as kids saw being built in sci-fi movies and TV shows of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Around 2000, I was just entering high school. Well, I had entered high school at the end of 1999. So I was in my freshman year, the rest of 99 into 2000. Point being, I got my first cell phone when I was in ninth grade. And, today my generation looks back at these kids now that are that age and says, why the hell do you need a cell phone? We survived without one. I can't really say I did, because as soon as I got one, I don't know if a lot of you know, because if you watch some of my videos, you might see, or you might not, I'm in a wheelchair. Shortly after I got my phone, I was rolling down the street. No, not sipping on gin and juice, at least not at that age. I was rolling down the street, and I was right across the street from my grandmother's road. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the wheel came, I think either both or just one, I can't remember. My wheels came off my chair. And I'm thinking, shit, what do I do now? So, thankfully, I had a brand new cell phone with me. I called my grandmother. I'm like, are you and Grandpa home? She goes, yeah. I'm like, well, I need to come down. And she goes, okay, well, you're welcome to come down. I essentially had to do a wheelie all the way down her street just to get to her house, because it was the two small front wheels that are on every wheelchair. If I had tried to wheel down to her house normally, it would have been a disaster. So I get down there, and she takes one look at me, and she goes, what happened, or do I even want to know? So essentially, she brings my grandfather out. We get my chair fixed. I stay for lunch and visit with them, and I'm on my way. That's kind of a deviation from why I'm making this video, though. When we got cell phones, or at least my generation, when we got cell phones, we essentially realized that we no longer had to remember telephone numbers once we entered them into the digital phone book in our cell phones. Now, there are several, because I grew up in a time where you had to remember phone numbers. There are several phone numbers I still remember, my grandmother's being one of them. But nowadays, it's not necessary to remember telephone numbers, because all we have to do is push a button. And even at 15, I think I saw that was going to be an issue, because it was just the first step in society and, corporate America saying, oh, we're moving you towards not remembering anything. It was weird at 15 to be able to understand that. But the reason that I mention it in the context of, my birthday being yesterday is because in, I believe it was 2006 or 2007, when Facebook became open to the public, because those of us who were early adapters or adopters, however you want to say it, of Facebook, remember that when Facebook was originally created, it was only for college kids. So when it was opened up to the public, it was this brand new thing that unfortunately killed MySpace. I miss MySpace so much simpler. But anyway, being that yesterday was my birthday, generally nowadays when you have a friends list on Facebook, there are umpteen thousand people, or maybe hundreds, depending on who you are, that try to add you. But once they add you, you end up forgetting that they're on your friends list because they don't reach out to you at all for any reason. So basically, they just take up space in your friends list. And something I started doing probably about 5-6 years ago is I would hide my birthday on Facebook from public view. That way, when my birthday would come around, Facebook wouldn't notify anybody. And that would indicate to me who genuinely remembered my birthday versus who was coming out of the woodwork to say happy birthday to me because Facebook reminded them. Now, I understand where, as depending on how long you've known somebody, you might not always know their birthday, or at least not in the earlier stages of getting to know each other. I get that. But the thing that always kind of caught my eye was the fact that people were coming out of the woodwork each year that I hadn't talked to in several years. Now, it's not for lack of trying, because I would reach out to people and they just wouldn't respond. But the minute my birthday came around and Facebook said, hey, it's, Ryan's birthday, yeah, they would automatically post on my wall like we hadn't missed a step, like, they hadn't, ceased talking to me for the last 2 or 3 years. And it started making me think, why are we even entertaining having so many people in our lives that have no intention of actively being present in our lives? And I'm curious from other people's perspective what you guys think about this, because I'm currently doing a project based around parasocial relationships, which is essentially you develop a relationship with somebody you are really not close to. Mainly in the context of if you are a fan of a celebrity. If you get too deeply involved and too curious about that celebrity, you may end up developing a parasocial relationship with them, thinking that you know everything about them purely because of what they're posting on social media. Parasocial relationships are not healthy at all. But it made me think, when I saw people commenting on my wall wishing me a happy birthday, it made me wonder if friendships that were genuine at one time could either develop or devolve, however you want to classify it, into a parasocial relationship. Has the internet and social media, even though it was meant to connect people that otherwise wouldn't be connected with one another, has the internet and social media done the reverse and turned genuine connections and friendships, relationships, what have you, into parasocial relationships? Because it seems like in 2023, people are far too comfortable interacting with one another from the comfort of a device versus being face-to-face with each other. So I'm curious from you guys, whoever ends up watching this, listening to this, what have you, what are your thoughts, and do you see this kind of trend in your own environment with your own interactions? So let me know in the comments, and we'll have a good discussion. Remember to hit all the links in the bottom and see what I'm up to. I will catch you again later.